Welcome to another Foreign Policy Quickie. Hopefully, this one will actually be quick. This talk discusses the non-binding resolution of the UN General Assembly to figuratively slap the Russian Federation on the hand. Let's talk about what the resolution actually said. It was titled the Draft Resolution for Aggression Against Ukraine. It was posted on March 3rd, 2022 in the UN General Assembly, which is the larger body of the United Nations. It condemned the 24 February 2022 declaration by the Russian Federation of a quote unquote special military operation in Ukraine. It reaffirmed that no territorial acquisition resulting from the threat or use of force shall be recognized as legal, meaning that if Russia does manage to hold on to any land, it won't be recognized internationally as legal. It expressed grave concern at reports of attacks on civilian facilities such as residences, schools, and hospitals, and of course of civilian casualties, including women, older persons, persons with disabilities, and children. It recognized that the military operations of the Russian Federation inside a sovereign territory of Ukraine are on a scale that the International Committee has not seen in Europe in decades. It endorsed the UN Secretary General's statement made the same day as the invasion, where he recalled that the use of force by one country against another is the repudiation of the principles of every country which is committed to the UN Charter. Of course, Russia is a signatory of the Russian Charter, of the UN Charter. It expressed grave concern of the deteriorating humanitarian situation, of course, in and around Ukraine, involving refugees and the impact of the conflict on increased food insecurity. It reaffirmed its commitment to the sovereignty, independence, unity, and territorial integrity of Ukraine. It said that it deplores in the strongest terms the aggression by the Russian Federation against Ukraine in violation of Article 2 of the United Nations Charter. It demanded that the Russian Federation immediately cease its use of force against Ukraine and to refrain from any further unlawful threat or use of force against any member state. It also demanded that the Russian Federation immediately, completely, and unconditionally withdraw all of its military forces from the territory of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders. Of course, having such strong language for a UN charter, you would think that all the countries would be in favor of this. Of course, while 141 countries were in favor of the resolution, 5 voted against, 34 abstained, and some were marked as absent. And we can take a quick look at who voted against. Not surprisingly, the Russian Federation and Belarus. Obviously, the Russian Federation wasn't going to vote to sanction itself and its actions. Belarus is closely tied with the Russian Federation and is actually actively involved in the quote-unquote special military operations, also known as invasion of Ukraine. Syria voted no, or rather voted against. No surprise there. Without the Russian Federation and Putin's support, Assad would have lost control of his country and would probably be in way worse of a shape, or would have had to relinquish all control, or may possibly be in jail for war crimes. Again, North Korea, no surprise. Dictators tend to stick together when it comes to voting these things because they don't want to put themselves in a place where they restrict their ability to take further actions in the future, such as invading other countries themselves. The surprise here of a vote against was Eritrea. Eritrea, an African country, it stated that it doesn't want to see a world dominated by one or two powers. They also made some other diplomatic statements, but it's important to recognize some of the potential reasons why they did this. One, it could be very close ties to Russia for weapons sales, economic and trade activity. And also Eritrea has had itself some questionable engagements in sending troops to other countries, territories of other countries where the dispute was not necessarily clear cut, and they were actually invading another country's land. The abstentions, as you see, some of these countries are not a surprise. Many people, many analysts didn't expect, most of the stands, like Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and so on. Even Armenia, any country within the former Soviet bloc, it was somewhat reasonable for them to abstain or even vote against, given that they're still very much economically, politically, socially, culturally tied with the Russian Federation. Of course, countries like Georgia, they've had very conflict-ridden histories with Russia, so they were not included in this list as abstentions. But it makes sense that the Soviet bloc countries would vote in abstention, not necessarily against or for, but choose to remain neutral as to not upset Russia. Now, India was a particular highlight in the votes. Many people were surprised because India is a very large democracy. I think the largest democracy in the world by population. However, no surprise to analysts, India is very closely tied to the Russian Federation economically, and they do have a future. Same with Pakistan. South Africa, again, was a surprise for the general public, maybe not necessarily so much for analysts. South Africa has a very close-knit relationship with Russia, particularly from the Soviet Union times. And there's a large Russian influence in Africa. They have trade summits and historic Soviet alliances where they supported their communist and freedom fighting forces to gain independence. And of course, there's existing and very much future trade relationships, and of course, weapons sales. South Africa is a very large weapons buyer of Russian weapons in Africa. So it makes sense. These kind of fall in line. Again, usually, again, with some of these countries, of course, not India or South Africa, but many times when you have autocratic regimes, they tend to stick together. Some of these are surprises, some of these not so much. Angola, one of those other countries in Africa that had very historic ties with the Soviet Union. Many of those leaders from those times are still in power. They remember that. And so weapons trade, historic alliances usually comes back to either money or power relationships. And then there were these countries, don't know whether they were truly absent or they chose to be absent. Some of it, again, not necessarily a surprise. Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan. You would think even Azerbaijan may have elected to abstain rather than be absent. But very interesting. This is, again, a very quick review. I'm sure we could dive into each country, analyze their economic relationship, their military assistance relationships with Russia and them, and potentially how they see the conflict and how it might impact their policies and the United Nations treating their future actions. But again, this is a foreign policy quickie. If you have any questions, please shoot them over to me. I'll try to include it in other videos or reply directly and discuss it. I've been enjoying all the comments and the questions and discussions that I've been getting. Please don't forget to subscribe. There are more videos coming. I think the next one is going to be the impact of the Ukraine invasion and China. And hopefully that will be coming out soon. It involves a lot of research, so I want to make sure I get it right. If you have any other questions or any ideas that you want me to cover or make a video on when it comes to foreign policy, please let me know. Thank you for watching.